Hello, everyone. Welcome to the information session for the Supply Chain and Operations Management program at George Brown College. My name is Robert Ruggieri, and I'm the program coordinator for the program and your host for this presentation. So this presentation, I've got it broken down into a couple of key sections. So the first thing I'm going to try to explain is what is supply chain management. So a lot of people will have questions with supply chain, and we've heard a lot about it in the news as of recently. So I'm going to hope to provide you a little bit of clarity around supply chain management. The second section is on admission requirements. The third one is the program. Fourth is on student life at George Brown and how students are interacting within the supply chain program and external to the supply chain program. A concept or an idea around graduate profile for success that we try to drive in our students. And lastly, diverse pathway options for graduates from our program. The first question that I'm trying to tackle here is, what is supply chain management? So maybe a different way of looking at this is think about the management of the management of chain of supplies. So think of the activities or all the activities that are required in order to promote a product or service from its beginning to a finished state, and the primary decisions that management needs to make in order to achieve a finished state in a product or service. So the key areas that we like to think of, and this is taken out of one of our textbooks, is think of decisions that you have to make around topics such as capacity, inventory management, time management, the information that's available, and then pricing a product. And these are pretty much the 5 key areas that most supply chain managers will have to manage or have to manage in order to make a rational or the correct supply chain decision. Other way of looking at supply chain management, you may have heard of terms such as procurement, logistics, materials management, production. And those are typically the more legacy, what I call legacy type supply chain disciplines. Today, the industry is shifting more down the path of what's called Industry 4.0 advancements, or advancements in Industry 4.0, which includes things such as systems and process integration, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain. And also to add to this is we're looking at areas around efficiency and effectiveness, specifically terms such as bankability, lean, negotiations, and ethics within our supply chain. Now, when we're looking at our supply chain program at George Brown, there's a number of admission requirements. Now, the one thing to note is we do have 2 programs within our program. One which is identified as the B122 program. The second one is identified as the B162 program. The fundamental difference between the 2 programs is two semesters of work experience or work terms. The B122 program is strictly academic, and the 162 program includes 2 semesters of work experience. So in terms of our admission requirements, applicants are selected on the basis of their academic achievements. Minimum requirements are your Ontario Secondary School diploma or equivalent, grade 12 English, grade 11 or grade 12 math. For the B162 program, again, that's the one with the work experience, students will need to maintain a 3.0 GPA throughout their time at George Brown. In order to participate within the work term semesters. And the other thing to note, as with the co-op program, is the 2 additional semesters are above the typical 6 semesters that students will need to complete in order to fulfill their academic requirements. In order to enroll into the program from let's say, mature student's perspective, STEM students may opt to take admission assessments for both English and math, and also international students would need to apply through the GBC International Center. Now, again, on the co-op, co-op can start pretty much after 3rd semester. Now, during their third semester, students will have to take what's called the work experience prep course. So that's in addition to their academic load. And then, as I mentioned earlier, they need to maintain a 3.0 GPA. If students do not have the 3.0 GPA, what will happen is students will not be able to enter into the work experience prep course, which in turn does not permit them to take on the work experience semesters. So if you unfortunately have under the 3.0 GPA, then students will not be able to participate in work terms and will be required to switch to the B122 program in order to graduate. So it's still saying, I mean, you'll still be able to graduate, but you won't have the work term experience. Now, having noted that, the minimum requirement in any one of our programs within the Center for Business is a 1.7 GPA. So students that fall below the 1.7 GPA, again, will not be permitted to graduate. The program itself has 2 intakes, so in September and January. As I mentioned, there's 6 semesters in total, 6 courses per semester for a total of 36 courses that students will have to take. Students will, in terms of in-class activity or in terms of hours in class, students will be taking on 18 hours of in-class lectures and activities. So the 18 hours can consist of some labs in some of our courses and as well as lectures. So typically you'll have 6 3-hour classes per week. Currently we have courses being offered both in class and online in order to support this requirement. Students are expected, and this is kind of something that students would have to note, is that they're expected to complete about 18 hours of work, 18 hours per week of both independent and group work outside of class. So the typical thing I do need to stress to students is it's not just about attending class, but it's also putting in the hours outside of class in order to complete the requirements of the program. In terms of overall program structure, now the latest information pertaining to courses in the program can be found on the website for both the B162 and B122 programs. But to summarize our courses, or to summarize the program, first 2 semesters will focus on business fundamentals, what we call business fundamentals. So students will take courses such as accounting, marketing, HR, and they'll also be introduced to supply chain. So they will take supply chain, what we call supply chain management 1, which is an overview of supply chain, and they'll also be taking operations management. In semester 3 and 4, students are now going to become a little bit more engaged in supply chain. And at this point, you will have transitioned out of your business fundamentals and focused more on topics within supply chain itself. So for example, procurement. We'll talk about, they'll be taking supply chain management 2, where there's emphasis on, let's say, topics such as forecasting, inventory management, let's say. Then after semesters 3 and 4, and again, if you're in the B162 program at this point, you're now taking some co-op. You're taking on your co-op responsibilities. Students will then progress into semesters 5 and 6, and at this stage, we'll be taking on advanced topics within supply chain and within supply chain management. And in these particular semesters, students will take on topics such as supply chain strategy, ERP. We'll be looking at supply chain integration as one of your courses. So again, additional topics or additional, call it more advanced topics within supply chain. So we'll be looking at the new trends within supply chain. And again, within these last couple of semesters, students will now be introduced to analytics in these in this period of their studies. In terms of our overall program itself, our program is relatively, in relations to other programs, both at our college and compared to other colleges, our program is still relatively new. But we've made some key advancements in the past number of years. So for example, 2015-16 saw us becoming a student chapter of ABIX, which I'll explain in a little bit. In 2016-17, we picked up some accreditations within the Supply Chain Canada. So these are both Supply Chain Canada and APICS are both third-party or external accreditation organizations. So as part of our pathways to students, we are networked with both parties to help further student education and to help further their networking ability, their ability to network outside of our school, which I'll explain in subsequent slides. In September 2020, our program shifted to learning as it relates to Industry 4.0. And what we mean by this is more of a focus on topics such as artificial intelligence, having students do research analysis on topics such as blockchain. So again, looking at more of the future of supply chain as opposed to, as I mentioned in previous slides, the legacy of supply chain. Now, having noted that, is in order to progress to understanding the future of supply chain, you do need to understand those fundamentals. You need to understand procurement, materials management. So basically the core of what supply chain, the core of what supply chain is today is still rooted in its past practices. In January 2021, we began development of a postgraduate diploma in supply chain, and with the anticipated launch, with its anticipated launch in January 2023. This may actually shift to September 2023 at this point, but nonetheless, it's kind of outside of scope in terms of our program. What might be of interest to our students is our activity as of late on our supply chain and our SCM degree. So we have an anticipated launch right now of September 2023, which again might be deferred by a semester. But what we're doing right now is we're going through the accreditation process. We've gone through a number of audits, and our program is developing quite nicely right now with the goal of that September 2023 launch. And again, it might slip by a semester. The idea, the key point to make in terms of referencing our supply chain degree program is we have developed it in the mindset that we will permit students with the diploma program a pathway. We will give students within the diploma program a pathway into entry into the degree program. So what does that basically mean? Is that, like I said, we're planning for roughly January 2025, okay? Where we're planning on having students basically complete 2 years of the diploma program. After completing that 2 year of the diploma program, again, subject to minimum grade requirements, which we've yet to establish, students will be permitted to enter into semester 5 in the degree program. So our degree program is planned as a 4-year degree. So in essence, we're accepting the 2-year diploma on a course-by-course basis, where students are then going to be able to jump from the second year of the diploma into year 3 of the degree. And again, something that most colleges right now do not permit. Right. So again, it's something that's kind of it's we've spent a lot of work in developing this 2+2 with providing students with that pathway opportunity. Now, the other key point I want to mention is on student life, specifically supply chain, specifically referencing our supply chain club. So within our, as part of our, networking with companies such as APICS or ASCM, formerly known as APICS, we've developed a supply chain club for our students. And now this is a club that's basically run by students, and it's faculty facilitated. This club participates in, or members of this club facilitate in supply chain case competitions. There's opportunities for plant tours, for attending panel discussions, speaker series. So nonetheless, the club in itself organizes a number of key events in and around supply chain. And the idea here is to basically network students to external organizations. They're not going to learn, students in our program are not going to learn everything from our program. And instead, supply chain, a lot of the learning is done external to our program. And so in doing so, what we've done is we've facilitated students with the ability to learn other aspects of supply chain, and as well as to use those opportunities to network with external organizations that in turn should help support them in their quest for obtaining employment upon completion of the program. Part of our club also offers students the ability to become free ASCM members, which again in turn provides them with networking opportunities. We have opportunity for discounted Supply Chain Canada membership. We're also heavily engaged in LinkedIn. Our club uses Instagram. So most of the social media type sites are now being employed by our club in order to get the word out, to share information with our student bodies, with our student groups. Grad profile for success. So one of the things we've done is we've talked to employers and we've said, okay, well, we offer students with a group of courses, but really, what is it that you want? And some of the key points that have come out from our discussion with employers. One is analytical skills. Students need to have the ability to analyze. It's great that they have information on supply chain, but they need to have the skill to analyze situations, information, etc. So the key tools here are, from an analytical standpoint, would be Excel, Access, business, and other BI or business intelligence modeling. So students will have the opportunity to use within this program, to use Excel, to use Access in order to complete their assignments. So our goal, along with providing them the education in supply chain, is also to see them progress with the uses of these tools. Employers are also asking for interpersonal skills, teamwork, negotiation and persuasion, conflict resolution and mediation. Again, these are skills that we're going to try to develop within our students. And then lastly, problem solving and decision making. So the ability for them to be creative, to research, to be able to provide strategic analysis, risk management, and risk management in order to ultimately arrive at decision making. So again, 3 key areas. But the one fundamental thing that employers have come back to us over and over again on is the idea of a positive attitude. So a lot of the skills, a lot of the education that students will pick up through their years, either at George Brown or in college in general, will provide them with the skill base in order to do the job. But if they don't bring a positive attitude into their workforce, I mean, that's going to look negatively on both the student and as well as George Brown. So that's the other thing that's probably the key thing that we try to instill is development of is helping support the development of an attitude. And that's through the development of these other key soft skills that we try to develop within our students. In terms of pathways, so students upon completion of the diploma program will be able to jump into a career. And an idea of some of these career paths could include customs analysts, logistics coordinator, forecast and demand planning analysts, etc. So there's a number of analytical roles, planning roles, coordinator roles. Might be looking at warehouse management type functions that students can actually engage in. Other students may opt for continuing their studies, and so we at George Brown, we offer a couple of postgraduate programs that can complement their supply chain studies. So, for example, studies in international business or project management or entrepreneurship, just to name some of the options that are out there. Again, as a coordinator, I wouldn't recommend actually students taking the post-grad study in our planned post-grad study in supply chain management, because it'll be pretty much comparable to what they're taking at the diploma level. However, what I would encourage them to do is to, if they want to pursue a university degree, is to pursue, the potential of entering into our supply chain degree program. Again, where we basically apply the courses that they've taken at the diploma level into their supply chain degree, or where we apply their courses into the supply chain degree itself. Students can actually take their diploma and possibly enter into a third year into a business or some other program at any one of the other universities in Ontario, per se. Finally, industry accreditations. So accreditations themselves. So although you have, students can jump into a career, or there's postgraduate studies available at the universities or colleges, students also have the ability to jump into industry accreditations with supply chain. So three of the big ones within supply chain. One is the through ASCM. There's a series of accreditations that they can provide students with additional examination, or through additional examination and schooling. So one organization is called ASCM. Another one is called ASQ, which is more quality related, in that students potentially can pursue, their quality or their Lean Six Sigma type or studies in Lean Six Sigma. And there's SCC, which is the Supply Chain Canada. Students can pursue certifications within they can pursue their certificate or their certification in supply chain management. And in the case of our SCC accreditation, based on our current studies, students are exempt in 3 of the 8 core modules. So again, we have networked the program to basically allow for students to then further pursue studies within supply chain, through our industry accreditation, through our industry accreditation partners. At this point, that's about it. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the screen, and I could answer any other questions you have as they may pertain to either A, supply chain, or B, our program itself. Thank you for your time, and look forward to seeing you as a student at GBC.